Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. Oh, that's really good. Today in D&D news, we don't have any D&D news other than the fact that Fizzbands releases tomorrow. Tonight, if you're getting it virtually, unlike D&D Beyond, but tomorrow. So look forward to that. I'm super excited about it. I cannot wait to get my hands on it because I, as we have discussed many times in the past, adore dragons. So I am super excited about that. Call in, make sure you check your pre-orders if you have not done so already, because apparently there has been some supply chain issue now and again for like your brick and mortar stores. Make sure that they've got your pre-order in, and if they're not going to have it, please don't give them a hard time, because it's not their fault that they won't have it. They can't really do anything about it. They fully intended to give it to you, and I'm sure they will get it to you as soon as they have the ability to actually do so. That is really it for D&D news. I'm not really surprised because we have Fizzbands coming out literally tomorrow. So moving on to streams, we have on twitch.tv/DND today at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have Candlekeep Mysteries, and at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we have Into the Mist, sort of the normal ones that I have talked about many times on this show. I think I might have said as many's as I have done weeks of this show, so that is potentially actually even correct. So definitely go check those out if you're looking for a different kind of stream or game. Just look up D&D actual play or search D&D on Twitch in order to find other games in that same realm. You might find a stream you really like from a smaller creator, which would be super cool. Again, that is twitch.tv/DND at 4:30 and at 7 o'clock. Today on T&D, I have, once again, my unicorn and narwhal mug, because why not? I really like this mug, and it is the licorice root, not eucalyptus, licorice root. What is it? A slippery elm bark. There we go, and orange peel. That is supposed to be good for your throat. Somebody asked me to please go ahead and show the kind of tea that I'm actually having on camera so that I can share some kind of recommendations. This is it. It's Yogi Throat Comfort Tea. It is phenomenal. If you talk a lot, then it is very, very good for you. I spent last night standing directly underneath two gigantic speakers yelling to people who were trying to have normal conversations with me. So I really kind of need it. My throat's a little shot this morning. You can hear the burn a little bit in the back of it. So bear with me on that one as I go through here. And final thing before I get into what we were talking about today, a reminder that all new patron, or all patron money at all that comes from October, and then the full payout at the end of the month from my Patreon is being matched by me and then donated to the Trevor Project in honor of Spirit Day, which was last week Thursday. The Trevor Project does some really, really phenomenal work as an LGBTQ crisis hotline for youths. So if you want to check them out, I will leave the description leave the link to it in the description of this video. And if you want to make a donation directly to them, by all means, please do. But if you enjoy the show and you want to support the show and make a contribution to them, you can find a link to my Patreon in the description of this video as well. Again, that is all of the cash that comes from your new subscription and the end of the month payout is going to be donated directly to them, with it being matched by me. So if you pledge $1, that becomes $2 as I match it and then donate the sum total. I mentioned last week on Thursday that I am really hoping that we can make it to a $100 all-around donation for them, and we are actually super close to that already. So please, if you're able to, even if it is just a one-time pledge donation, go check it out. I would really appreciate it. So moving on from that, getting into what we were talking about today, we are talking about fighters today. We are working our way through the classes. It is fighter for this week, Monday. And we are just going to kind of get into it. Fighters are exactly what they sound like. You might be thinking, if you're unfamiliar with the D&D classes, you might be thinking that is a terrible name for a class, and you would honestly be right. It's not the best name for a D&D class, but I don't really care. Fighters are super, super cool, regardless of what anybody will tell you. Um, Fighters are, as the name suggests, fighters. They are martial characters. They are frontliners. They have a D10 hit die. They are sort of a bread and butter kind of class for D&D, and they are a lot of fun to play if you haven't played one before. So going through what they get at levels here, we're just going to speed through this. Level 1, you pick up a fighting style, as well as Second Wind, a fighting style. As we will talk about in other classes coming up, there are specific like styles that you might want to be playing your characters in. Those are supplemented by fighting styles, which you usually pick up in the first couple levels of martial classes. I don't think Barbarian gets one, which is why we haven't really touched on it yet. But fighting styles are things like archery, where you get a +2 to hit with ranged weapons, all the way down to like unarmed fighting, where your unarmed strikes deal a different amount of damage. Unarmed fighting is a new one from Tasha's, if you are confused about what I'm talking about there. And then Second Wind allows you to, as a bonus action on your turn, regain hit points equal to, I believe it is 1d10 plus your fighter level. Naturally, I did not write that down, so let me just very quickly get to it. 1d10 plus your fighter level. There we go. It is once per short or long rest. Fighters are largely a short rest class. If you don't know what I mean by that, I mean most of their abilities recharge after a short rest, which is actually applicable to the next ability they get, which at level 2, they get Action Surge, which is arguably the single most powerful ability that any class picks up in the entire game. Action Surge lets you do literally exactly what it sounds like. That's it. You get to take another action on your turn for free. You don't have to like spend a bonus action to do it or anything. It doesn't give you a full another turn, but it gives you an additional action to do with what you please. Technically, you can apply this to if you have 2 levels in fighter and I don't know, like 10 in wizard or something like that. You can action surge to cast 2 leveled spells as each action on your turn. The only 1 leveled spell per turn only comes into effect if you cast a leveled spell as a bonus action on your turn, which is why you could cast a spell as your action that is a leveled spell, and at the same time counterspell a spell in the same motion on your action, or use a reaction based spell as your action, or as a reaction in the same turn. I did a horrible job of explaining that. I'll do it again sometime, I promise. Please forgive me. Not the point. Action Surge, amazing ability. Level 3, you pick up your martial archetype. At level 5, you pick up extra attack. I don't remember if I talked about it for barbarians, but it is a special case for fighters. Extra attack just means that you get to attack twice instead of once when you take the attack action, which with Action Surge means you can attack 4 times instead. At level 9, you pick up Indomitable, which gives you the ability to reroll a saving throw if you fail. So you actually do get to know if you have succeeded or failed before you decide to use Indomitable, which is cool because you don't get that a whole lot in other classes. You have to use the new roll if you do use Indomitable, and that is a long rest ability recharge, which is a little bit different than some of the other fighter abilities. At 11th level, you pick up another extra attack. So you can now attack 3 total times on a turn when you take the attack action. Normally, if you were to be multi-classing, and let's say you'd go 5 levels in Barbarian and 5 levels in Fighter, you get extra attack at level 5 for both of them, but you still can only attack twice per turn. You can't just cherry pick martial classes in order to keep stacking attacks. However, in the Fighter class, as you level up, you can build up your extra attacks. So when you hit level 11 in Fighter, you can now make 3 total attacks when you take the attack action on your turn, which is awesome. At level 13, you gain another use of Indomitable. At level 17, you get another use of Action Surge between short rests, so that is 2 now, and you get another use of Indomitable once again. Then At 20th level, yeah, before you get to 20th level, it's important to note that you can't use both of your action surges on the same turn. So you can't action surge. You can't make an attack action, take 3 attacks, action surge, take 3 attacks, and then action surge again to take 3 more attacks on the same turn there. You have to spread it out over more than one turn. But at 20th level, you get another extra attack. So you are up to a grand total of 4 attacks per attack action, which is phenomenal. Honestly, Fighter is one of the best scaling martial classes in the game because of this feature. And you can, I mean, 4 extra attacks, or 4 attacks total, plus an action surge, that's 8 attacks in a single turn. And that is only using a main-handed weapon. If you are also using an off-handed weapon, you got 9, which is awesome. That's phenomenal. Are you kidding me? So, fighters, you get a whole lot of attacks. But what do they get to supplement these attacks? Here's the other reason that fighters are actually one of the better classes in the game, in my opinion. Fighters get more ability score improvements than any other class. Most classes pick up ability score improvements at levels 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19. That's 5 throughout the entire 20 level up process. Fighters get them more than anybody else at 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 19. That's 8 different ability score increases. So you can boost your main score, whichever one you're leaning into, be it strength or dexterity, because let's be honest, you're a fighter, that's what you're going to be doing, and a secondary score, and potentially even a tertiary score if you go all ability score increases on them, because you will have a total of 16 points to allocate there. And if you don't need to go into a third score or even a second score necessarily, because you've got one that's high at the beginning and you can just kind of like bump it and then work on another one, you can take feats throughout all of those. That is phenomenal. Okay? That is so good. Pairing that with the fact that you can beat the crap out of stuff 4 times in one action on every single turn, that's so good, okay? I cannot emphasize enough that I think fighters are horrifically underrated. Like, people talk about human fighters being boring all the time. Fighter is a super fun class to play. And actually, I talked about on this channel how if you want to know how to make a martial class more interesting to play, you should watch Liam O'Brien in Exandria Unlimited, because he does a amazing job of making his level 2 fighter one of the most fascinating people to watch play because of how detailed he is on it. You can do that, right? You can do that with any martial class, but fighter really gives it to you because you have so many opportunities to actually hit stuff with fighter. Now, let's run through all of the subclasses for them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I might have miscounted that because I did it very fast and they got a little blurry at the end. So we're just going to go through them. It doesn't matter how many there are. We're just going to talk about them. Leading the pack, we have our Arcane Archer. This is your ranged fighter, pretty much specifically a bow using ranged fighter, because you cannot apply your arcane shots to crossbow bolts for whatever reason. I personally have never really understood the appeal of Arcane Archer. I am I can't ever tell really if it's the minority or the majority on believing that Ranger is actually a really good, really viable class. I love Rangers. My first character was a Ranger. I think Rangers are amazing. I would rather just play a Ranger with a bow than an Arcane Archer fighter, but I also do see the appeal of Arcane Archer in specific types of campaigns, maybe ones that are less combat heavy, because you only get a certain number of your arcane shots and then you're just shooting stuff instead of like being able to add stuff to it quite so much, because you don't get access to spells with them as you would with a ranger. Not the point. They are your core ranged build for fighter, for sure. Moving forward, we have the Battle Master Fighter, which is, I mean, it's a classic. It is about as classic as it gets, with the exception of one other fighter subclass, which we will get to in just a second. Battle Master Fighters are all about control. You can inflict different conditions on opponents using your battle maneuvers, which are represented by a pool of dice. You can trip them, you can push them, you can like parry, you can do all kinds of really awesome stuff. You can make it so they have disadvantage on attacks against your buddies, all kinds of different maneuvers. You get to pick the maneuvers you want. You gain maneuvers as you level up. There is a fighting style where you literally get Battlemaster maneuvers because they are so good. At a fighting style in other subclasses and stuff like that, where you can pick up Battlemaster maneuvers because they are so good. And honestly, if they were a core part of the fighter class, the fighter would be broken. Every once in a while you get a subclass where it's like, maybe that should have really just been part of the core class. Fighters would be busted if that was part of it, and I think they did a really good job writing the Battlemaster. It's one of the like core rulebook classes that I think actually kind of holds up against some of the newer stuff, which is awesome and honestly a huge testament to how good it is. Next up, we have the Cavalier Fighter, which is a weird one because the name would suggest that you need a horse. And the first feature would suggest that you need a horse in name alone. The first one is called Born to Saddle, and it essentially makes it so that you can't like get knocked off your horse and stuff like that. But past that, you don't need a horse for anything. Born to Saddle, it makes it so that you can't really get knocked off your mount, right? Other than that, Cavaliers are all about drawing fire and locking enemies in place. You have things that allow you to hit stuff and make it so they can't move. Allow you to have things where you hit stuff and they can only attack. Stuff like that. It is a fascinating subclass to me. I want to play it at some point. I've not gotten to yet. It's so different than what I would expect something called the Cavalier Fighter to be that I am really excited for the day that I actually get to play it. Next up is your champion fighter. I said that Battlemaster would be like your quintessential fighter. This is actually your quintessential fighter, right? Champions, while they are not the most overwhelming subclass, I will admit, they are very good still. The thing that champions get that set them apart from everybody else is their improved critical. As you level up, starting at level 3, you crit on a 19 or 20 attack roll. Then when you get up to level 15, it's 18 through 20. Obviously that's a big like level jump there, but that's still very good. There are a couple of other things that they get that are like very small mechanical things. They get an extra fighting style, stuff like that. They make them cool too. But like the human champion fighter is like the guy with a sword and a shield and like chainmail that you assume people are talking about when you hear fighter. Moving forward, we are talking about the Echo Knight next. I have no description for this in my notes because it is so weird. It is so much fun to play. I will say, the Echo Knight was written. It was not written by the core D&D squad. This is Matt Mercer's brainchild that was published in official D&D material. So it is in fact like actual official D&D material. However, it is so bizarre, and you can tell the difference in the writing style because it is a little bit more open and floaty than the very specific things that they talk about in the core books with the core subclasses. That said, it is so fun. I got to play it in a one-shot, and it is one of my favorite one-shot characters I have ever gotten to play. His name was Vero. He was so much fun to play. He had negative scores from both intelligence and wisdom, but super high charisma, super high dexterity, and was an Echo Knight. So you can like manifest shadow versions of yourself to help you out, to like distract enemies and stuff like that. You can switch places with them. So much fun. Honestly, give it a read if you haven't already, because I will not be able to describe it and do it justice. That's just the way it is. After Echo Knight is Eldritch Knight, which is your spellcaster of the fighters. I don't know exactly where I got this information, and I don't know that it's necessarily true, but Eldritch Knight is one of the most popular fighter subclasses, I believe, if nothing else. For good reason. Spells in 5th edition are inherently super powerful, so getting to cast spells and getting to like stab stuff a bunch of times, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Yes, you are, I believe, a third caster. Yeah, a 1/3 caster instead of a half caster. So you are kind of limited in what you can do. But still, super cool. It's you're a beefier version of a Blade Singer, which we'll talk about when we get to Wizards in several weeks now. But they're just cool. Like inherently, they're just cool. Um, and casting spells is just cool. So that Eldritch Knight, that's really what you get with Eldritch Knight. You get to do spells. I'm going to throw Gunslinger in here because even though it is not official, it likely will never be official unless we get a full kind of rewrite or something like that. I am going to toss it in here just as like a shout out to Critical Role Matt, one of Matt's earliest full rights for subclass that we know of that we have gotten to experience. If you like Percy in Campaign 1, you will love Gunslinger. That's it. It is Percy's subclass. Moving forward, we have the Psi Warrior, which is a very new one. This one is all about versatility. You get Psi dice and Psi points and stuff like that, and you can use them on different maneuvers. It's kind of like a Battle Master, but not quite like a Battle Master. It's another kind of weird one. It's kind of hard to describe. I said it was versatile because they have different powers that allow them to move more. It allows them to hit harder. It allows them to protect people. Like they kind of can do it all, which is awesome, obviously. After the Psi Warrior, we have the Purple Dragon Knight, which is widely regarded as one of the worst subclasses in the game. Straight up. It could really use some love. It could really, really use some love. It is lackluster through and through. They had a cool concept when they were going for it. It's supposed to be like a battlefield commander, battlefield leader, but it misses the mark on it. And I think it needs a rewrite. I think it needs a revisit. I think that now that they have a little bit more under their belt with it, it should really get a revisit from them. I mean, honestly, I might even try and rewrite it at some point here and post it on my Patreon. So maybe look forward to that. Who knows? After the Purple Dragon Knight, we have the Rune Knight, which is all about enhancing yourself or your weapons in some way. It's super cool. It leans really far into the like Nordic mythology or Norse mythology. There we go. Like runes on weapons, runes on your body, that sort of thing. Activate them to get to do stuff. It leans into like the giants, runes, giants might sort of stuff of Norse mythology. And finally, we have Samurai. I put this as frontline ? In my notes because it fills a similar sort of role as your Cavalier does, but they also fill distinctly different roles. I think that if you were to drop a Cavalier next to a Samurai, you would have a just absolute murder tornado. That's what I'm going to call it, a murder tornado. They are, the one makes it hard to die, and the other one makes it hard for other people to do stuff. Like, combining those two on the front line would be a match made in heaven, I think. I could be wrong. Maybe it's not. But from the way they both read, because I haven't gotten to play either one of them really, I got to see a Cavalier played for a little bit, but that's about it. I think that those two would work super, super well together. But Samurai standing on its own, it's all about like being resilient and being able to keep going and make yourself more of a frontliner than a fighter already is, which is why it's kind of got a question mark after frontliner in my notes. But that brings us to the end of Fighter. Let me know what you think about Fighter in the comments, because it is apparently a weirdly divisive topic, in spite of the fact that I think that they're pretty standard and pretty cool. But that is the end of what I have to talk to you guys about today. Thank you. Wow. Oh, wow. That is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. There we go. Thank you so much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much to my patrons in particular. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. Reminder again, all funds from Patreon for the month of October, new pledges and payout at the end of the month included, are going to be matched and donated directly to the Trevor Project. So if you want to help support that, please find the link to my Patreon in the description below, as well as a link to the Trevor Project if you want to learn more about it. But I think that is everything. Tune in tomorrow for finally, a first glance at Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. I'm so excited. I have been waiting for months to make this video. Oh my god, guys. I'm pumped. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I cannot wait to talk to you tomorrow. But until next time, keep on rolling.